have a chance to listen to the recording after they logged on late. I apologize if I start to cough or if I have to mute myself for a moment. I've actually been sick for the last week, and it's been I just can't seem to shake this infection. It's just terrible. But again, every day it gets a little bit better, so at least I have my voice back. That was my concern for today. Anyway, what we want to talk about today is the confidence gap in women, and is it fact or fiction? Because the confidence issue is just something that, as we have seen in our discussions, always seems to come up, you know, in various aspects when we discuss particularly leadership and women leadership. You know, so typically the cliche says that women lack confidence at work, and that women actually lack confidence, period. And so, what the research shows, and kind of what I've experienced and observed, is that women who lack confidence continuously worry about having to act like someone else. And compared to men, you know, men appear to think they're better in their work than they actually are. So men really tend to be overconfident. Let me just, before I continue, I see some notes in the chat box that you can't hear anything. Let me just type real quick to those folks. If you can't hear, or for some, I'm going to say it as well, just in case you get disconnected or there's something happens. It's very strange you can't hear. If you can't hear, please check your audio at the top left. Do an audio check, and sometimes you need to log off and log back on. Yeah, so that's really the only thing I can tell you, is to do an audio check on your system. And if that doesn't work, you'll need to log on and off. Sometimes that has helped people in the past in other webinars. So anyway, let me continue. So we have that differentiation, is that men tend to be overconfident and women lack confidence, you know. And so what happens is, especially with the fact that women start to act like someone else in this whole confidence gap phenomenon, you know, is that we can observe an imposter syndrome. And so when we look at what is the imposter syndrome, well, you know, if you look at a Wikipedia definition, for example, for the imposter syndrome, it's a psychological phenomenon which people are unable to internalize their accomplishments, really. And despite external evidence of their competence, those with the syndrome remain convinced that they are frauds and do not deserve the success they have achieved. This is a quotation straight from the definition of imposter syndrome. And in other words, really, there is an internal fear that someone is to be found to be incompetent. And women seem to have more of that than men. You know, and so you want to ask yourself, do you ever feel like you behave or act like someone else at work? Do you ever pretend like you are someone else? I've worked with a lot of women who actually have that. And then the question becomes, do women or men experience more of the imposter syndrome, or is it a stereotype? You know, is a woman's success because of luck or being at the right place at the right time versus her actual capability and performance? You know, so that's something to really think about continuously. And so then the question also is, why do more women than men feel this way? And there could be lots of reasons, you know, and looking at when I started to research this and look at this, it may be due to biological differences in the brain. That's a fact. You know, the brain makeup between men and women is very different. Men have more gray matter, which is an analytical part of the brain, and women have more white matter, which is the part that connects countless streams of information. You know, then there's this thing called hormones. Of course, we all know the hormones. Estrogen, you know, supports the brain involved with social skills, observations, with its inspiration on bonding and connecting with others, while at the same time, discouraging risk-taking and conflict. And if you look at testosterone, that really helps to energize male confidence. And it's the hormone that encourages winning, demonstrating power, and risk-taking. So on a side note, you know, the drawback of high levels of testosterone is overconfidence and aggressive behavior, both of which may be fatal risks, actually. So testosterone-driven decisions aren't necessarily the better ones. So, you know, that's something to keep in mind. Because the question, you know, is at that point, so do women need more testosterone? Well, not really, because a study suggests that women who were giving testosterone declined in their ability to be collaborative and were wrong more frequently. So there's always a caution with assuming that, oh, let's just, you know, take more testosterone and then we'll be more like men and we'll be more successful. No, 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 that's not the case. So why do more women than men feel that lack of confidence and that gap? Well, women negotiate less, you know, which is a whole nother topic in the realms of negotiation. Overall, women appear not to want to engage in negotiation frequently, actually. You know, for example, salaries. Women negotiate lower salaries versus men, and they negotiate 30% lower on average. So another thing that, you know, you want to look at is the upbringing and how we are raised. I mean, there's a lot of interplay here in terms of, you know, especially if you do behavioral studies, just in general, not just around the leadership aspect or the gender aspect of leadership, you know. Boys are told it's okay to make mistakes, and versus girls who are told you need to be always good and perfect little girls who don't make mistakes. You know, and that creates hurdles in the future because it's tied, or I say it may just be tied to that level of confidence in women. And surprisingly, research shows that girls in their teenage years seem to drop out of competitive sports when they experience failure, actually. Basically, when they mess up. You know, they're very critical and they think that they cannot succeed anymore, and their confidence levels drop. And so there's just some type of correlation there. And then, of course, you look at the nature of play. You know, girls are rewarded for being good. And instead of rambunctious and energetic, you know, girls get praised for being perfect, and they socialize more easily than boys. Girls learn to avoid taking risks and making mistakes. That's what they learn. And they're encouraged to be passive. And the boys, on the other hand, receive more reprimand and punishment. So therefore, they actually learn how to deal with failure. And in boys, failure is about lack of effort, versus in girls, it goes much, much deeper and not just on their qualities. And if you look at this as a pictorial representation, I love those circles, goes right back to the confidence factor. Okay, and how self-critical we are, which is another, oh my gosh, another whole topic very closely tied to this. So the other thing to point out here is that male members do suffer similar issues, you know. Men appear to be more skilled at hiding their insecurities, actually. You know, because society tells them, hey, you have to man up. I mean, societal, stereotypical behavior. I mean, we give so much, again, that's a whole other topic that so much is interrelated with and connected to, is how much power we give society, is societal stereotyping alone. You know, the tenacity of competitive nature and really driven leadership are characteristics of women who have the imposter syndrome. And that imposter syndrome is actually spurred on by their self-doubt, that there may be some similarities to male leadership traits here. You know, if you think about that, the women who have the imposter syndrome may have a lot of male leadership traits, and having skills for a given job doesn't translate into feeling confident. In fact, I believe that holds true for both women and men. You know, I really believe that. Just having skills for a given job doesn't translate into feeling confident. Now, women outscore men. There's a lot of research on that. There's a lot of data on that, especially when it comes to, you know, this whole movement in terms of women and boardrooms and just you know, making their ways into higher specialty positions, key executive positions. And the research into gender differences among executives actually found that women generally outscore men on 3 out of 4 measures used to single out high potential business leaders, ladies, with one difference: confidence. That's the lack, and it's a powerful one. So what's important is that to stop behaving the way societal stereotyping dictates. You know, we're being told what to do, how to be, how to behave. And it's been like that since when? Always? So then the question I ask is that when we will create new stories, and it goes back to the beginning of this, that women need to be seen more, really. I mean, they need to be seen more, and more stories need to be told about what women can do and what they have done and what they have accomplished. Now, thinking about, do some women suffer confidence crises? Well, I think they do. Excuse me. I think, I want to allow myself to say that I think at some point in time we all do, in our own ways. And I actually also think men do in their own way. So let's focus on the women for a moment. So research shows that a vital element holding women back from executive senior positions is actually the lack of confidence. I mean, that's just clear. It's a fact. Because, in part, is that women think they have to be perfect. There's a study from Hewlett-Packard that shows that women would only apply for a promotion if they met 100% of the job criteria and requirements. And the thing is, it's so interesting because think about that. Think about yourself and trying to land a job or the job that you want or whatever it is you want to do, even internally applying for a position, and you know you have competition. You know, it's competitive excuse me. It's a competitive world out there, it's a fact. But the women have this notion. If they met 100% of the job criteria and requirements, that is the only time they will apply. And you know, I have to tell you, ladies, if I think back in my time in trying to land a new job, I think I had that notion too. I really wanted to be perfect for that job. And if I felt that, oh, I don't meet that, I don't meet this, I just didn't apply. You know, versus men who applied, although they only met 60% of the job criteria, feeling they will learn the rest while on the job. Well, that's the kind of thing that you want to almost embrace because you know you're capable, so just do it. I mean, just go for it and let others turn you down. Don't turn yourself down. Columbia State University study showed that women consistently underestimate their abilities versus men who regularly overestimate their abilities by at least 30%. So there's something to be said about that and to be thought about. And then there have been longitudinal studies that show that men and women from 14 to 30 have the same levels of self-esteem. This is a study that was done in Switzerland. So they found that contrary to the popular belief, there is no significant difference in women and men's self-esteem in adolescence and young adulthood, which is profound. This is profound. So what, you know, so then the question is, and these are just gaps. I mean, you can go on and on with researching and studying. What happens between 30 and plus, you know, what goes on there? And is it a cultural thing? Was it just in Switzerland that this is the case? So, of course, there's always room for more studies to be compared and contrasted with other variables. Now, what feeds the lack of confidence, I think, is an important one to kind of touch up on. And you know, what feeds the lack of confidence and thus promotion to executive positions, not just executive positions, but just the kind of, you know, being recognized as the leader you are, you know. And some of those things are internal criticisms. Women are very hard on themselves. You know, I just think we need to let go and let things roll off our shoulders and not hang on to criticism. And criticism as a whole does not boost women's confidence at all whatsoever. And the thing is, not all women are like that, so I want to make sure you know that not all women are like that. These are just studies that have been done in terms of why is it the way it is. Women tend to overthink, overanalyze, and they beat themselves up. Men have self-doubts too, but they don't beat themselves up about it. And I can tell you that this one, you know, when I started researching this, and I thought, oh my gosh, I used to totally overthink and overanalyze, and sometimes I still do. It just depends on what topic it is or what is it about. And I tell you, this is the case both professionally and personally. I have let go a lot of it, and because it creates stress. It creates stress for yourself. So it's very, it's something to just keep in mind and be aware of. And a lot of women credit the circumstances for their success. You know, are we just in the right place at the right time, or are we actually capable? And the next one would be luck versus hard work and talent is the same thing. I was just lucky to get this job. Well, what about your hard work and talent? And self-doubt in our abilities, underestimating our abilities, is another notion for lack of confidence. Perfectionism, striving for perfection. Women think they have to be perfect. And it kind of goes right back to, you know, the correlation to our upbringing or how society thinks little girls need to be. And I can tell you, I used to be a perfectionist. Oh, boy, was I a perfectionist. And I laid that off real quick because it was just simply too stressful. I'm not saying I don't take pride in my work, and I try to do 200%. You know what I mean. I mean, there's just, you got to have that balance, and I know we heard balance a lot in our discussion board. Leaving no room for mistakes and failures. You know, basically women think, again, they have to be perfect, and they don't tend to see how they can grow from their mistakes or learning from failures. I think this is really important. Another one is that women let their nervous tensions get in the way of acting, you know, raising a hand during a business meeting, for example, or standing up and disagreeing with a colleague. Those are anxieties that actually prevent women from acting. I mean, think about meetings you've been in. You know, were you vocal, were you not? Did you kind of scan the environment first? Who's present, who's what, who does what? You know, we all have our tendencies and our preferences. And I can say that I have been both reserved in meetings and vocal. And I can tell you over the years, I always say empower yourself. You will be surprised what happens when you empower yourself. Definitely a confidence builder. And blaming the self when we make mistakes, you know, or things go wrong. Women are notorious for that. Crediting others for her success is another one. Having a negative attitude, I mean, in general, regardless if you're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter, a negative attitude, just think about all the behaviors that come with it. You know, saying, I won't get the job, the great job anyway, so why even apply and try? And perhaps we've all humans have had that notion, or we're at that point in our lives you know, at one point or another. It's just that don't stay there. Not trying. Women don't try. So there's a study that showed that although women were as able as men, they didn't even try to take a test, for example. It was not about their ability to do well. It was about not going for it and not trying at all. And then most of the time, and I think women are notorious for that, if you think about it, focus is on others. Women focus on everyone else except themselves. And which may be something innately tied to biology, actually, because if you think about being a mother, you know, I mean, I'm guilty of that. I focus on everybody else but me, and then I wonder why I'm so burned out at some point in time, you know. And so, again, balance is the key word. And just being aware and touching, I want to say just, you know, touching base or checking in with oneself, and we tend to forget that. And an example I have here is, you know, Virginia Rometty, the first female CEO of IBM Corp. There are many other organizations and, of course, female CEOs I could have picked. I just selected her, you know, in part because IBM has been around for so long, and I remember working on the first IBM machine and all that stuff. And it was just all totally a male-driven organization. I mean, it didn't matter where I went. There were only men. And so, you know, she actually, that was in part one of the reasons why I picked her, is because she talked about confidence. And she talked about why it's so important to need self-confidence, because she said that she actually ruled herself out of that job. Earlier in her career, she didn't think she had enough experience and needed time to think about the big job. And what it has taught her is that you have to be very confident, despite being self-critical of not knowing it at all. That is a leadership trait of risk-taking, because you'll learn as you are on the job, and that is a fact. You know, so it's really a risk that you take, you know, by not knowing it all and still going for it. And the characteristics that are affiliated with her, per se, and the confidence is the ability to blend enthusiasm. She's charismatic, clear communication, strategic thinking, and cool-minded decision-making is how she's known. Excuse me. And so the importance here is, you know, I mean, self-confidence is a key element, really, of dynamic and energetic handling, managing, and coping. And of course, just remember how it is tied to the behavior that's displayed, which is absolutely crucial in executive success or in anything that you do. I mean, it's tied to behavior because it's a mindset, it's a cognitive behavior. You know, I mean, there's just it just displays so much about an individual. That little word of confidence, it's just very powerful. And of course, I love sayings, I love quotations. You know, self-confidence is the most attractive quality a person can have. How can anyone see how great you are if you can see it yourself? I mean, and that is the truth. I think it's something we tend to forget. I think not just women, men as well, but primarily women, because confidence has been identified as one of the key, you know, gaps of why women don't get those key jobs at times. And that's an important thing, because again, you know, think about it, a lot of it is tied to behavior, you know. And so you have to, I mean, when I saw this keep calm and take control, I know all these keep calm things, but keep calm and take control, really, it spoke to me, and it hopefully will speak to you too, because you know what you know. You know that you know, and you know you have the ability and that you are competent. And so you can be very calm about that and just proceed, you know, and it's only, at the end of the day, it's only you. I mean, no one else can do it for you. You have to do this, really. And another great person and saying, you know, by Eleanor Roosevelt, remember, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. And that's a fact. It's another fact that we tend to forget very often. You know, so where do you start? It's usually the question, how do you take control of your career confidence? You have to start with yourself. You've got to start with yourself. You know, that's where it all starts. Only you. And you can take control of your career confidence, you know, by seeking challenging situations. And I know we had a little bit on the discussion board where people were talking about, you know, staying current, you know, technology. A lot of you ladies are techno whizzes, and I admire that. I'm like, I really want to challenge myself. Actually, I'd love to learn. This is so interesting. It's kind of funny. Actually, I would love to learn SAP applications. Me, I am so not an IT person. You wouldn't believe it. I mean, it's just laughable, really. I admire all of you when you tell me how many years you've done SAP and all the stuff you do with IT. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how brilliant is that? And I don't know what it is, all of a sudden, what happened in the past few months. I am just thinking, I would like to learn some SAP apps, you know, that have to do with my type of work, because they have SAP has so many different components. I didn't even realize it until I mean, I know SAP is in Germany. It's right, they're right where I grew up, actually. And so I started reading about them, and then here we had this conversation on our discussion boards about you know, having time to stay current, having time to challenge yourself with something new, having time to learn with something new. It's that, again, that key word of balance and trying to find the time, which is such a scarce resource. And then here we are multitasking, right, already, and we only have 24 hours in the day. Oh, my goodness. But anyway, seeking challenges and challenging situations, put yourself in situations that actually force you to overcome and confront your anxieties and your nervous tensions. For me personally, that is actually anything IT related. I feel that that is a gap for me. I feel it is time that I actually do something about that. It doesn't mean that I want to become an IT whiz or be a business systems solutionist. But I feel that that's a gap I have, and I want to fill it. And the next one is grow by taking on some male leadership qualities and then some. Diversity is what it's all about. And so, you know, growth in whole is great. And the thing is taking on male leadership qualities, you know, actually the point of this matter is, and I always say that, is why couldn't we, it's just like you go and benchmark. I mean, that good old benchmarking term from years and ages ago where you hopefully still learn about what others are doing great and what works and why it works. So why not try it? And I kind of say the same thing to men. It's like, you know, there are some leadership qualities women have that are very, very beneficial. So why don't you give it a try, you know, because it's usually outside of the comfort zone. And no human wants to be outside of his or her comfort zone. But it's a good thing because it's growth. And really go ahead, don't be perfect all the time. Make mistakes, make many. Because it's okay to not be perfect all the time. Failure is okay, we learn from it and we grow from it. And for those of us who are already mothers, this is an important one because hopefully that's what we tell our kids, right? It's okay to make mistakes. So what did you learn? Same thing. Same thing applies for us, and we forget that. Supporting young girls and young women, especially in the college years, you know, that it's okay to mess up in competitive sports and to keep at it. This is the key thing. It's a great way to build confidence towards accomplishments. It doesn't matter if you don't make, it doesn't matter if you don't make first place. What matters is that you kept at it and that you pulled it off anyway, even if you don't place at all. Okay, because that's the confidence builder. Change thinking, you know, change acting. It helping each other basically to change the way we think, because this will change how your brain is wired and it will affect your actions cognitively. It's important that you change your thinking, and that takes time. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's easy because it's not. You know, it took me a while as well to just empower myself to say no. I mean, that is a big thing, to say no. That's also really hard for women, is to actually turn something down, you know, and not not critically overanalyze. Oh my gosh, what if I turn this down? Then what are the ramifications? X, Y, Z, A to Z. No, no, no. It's okay. You have that right, and you can, because you're confident. Ask yourself, how would a man handle this? You know, sometimes it's a good question to ask. It just depends on the situation. How would a man answer this question of, do you want this big job, like in Virginia Rometty's case, you know? Sometimes that can be a good thing. Why not ask that question? And don't stop to hope or wait for permission. That's another thing women tend to do. You don't need to wait for permission. I mean, no one needs to, no, you just need to do it. If this is what you want to do, then you just need to do it. And don't wait for someone to ask for your opinion, for example, on how to solve a problem. You know, you just give your opinion, because you have an opinion, so give it. It's important that you do. Excuse me. Another big one that women tend to do is stop apologizing for family responsibilities, because they're just as important as your career accomplishments, and family is a reality that doesn't make one less competent. So that's a really important one, because there are still a lot of women out there who use that as an apology. And you know what? It's not an apology, especially when it comes to being competent. And ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. There's nothing wrong with asking for help, you know, because you don't want a project to go bad or to be delayed just because you didn't ask for a resource you need. Make connections. You know, we've talked about, of course, there's a way women network a little differently than men, which is a whole other topic, but it's good to make connections because it will help you. Some of us are better at it than others, but it's a good thing to do. Also show that you learn from mistakes, because mistakes are okay. You know, it's okay that you learn from failures, and it's okay to talk about them, actually. It's a good thing. People will respect you for it. Excuse me. People will thank you for it. And don't let anxiety translate into insecurity. And so basically what this means is, you know, don't let it take over. I mean, think about your abilities and that you can learn on the job. So don't be anxious and turn it into insecurity. You know you're capable. You know you're able to pick up things like that. So you can do this. And having a positive mindset is an important thing, because again, think about it. It's all cognitive. You know, I mean, it's all in the attitude. And if you feel that you can do this, that's a confidence factor, and that will change your whole demeanor when you are about to perform. You know, acting as if is a great way to actually have approach things, because you don't want to wait until you have the perfect confident feeling or thought. Because if you think and act as if, your behavior, feelings, and ultimately all your actions will change. I mean, all you gotta do is what if, and just sometimes practice that. It is really amazing. I mean, sometimes I sit here and I think, when I, you know, do certain readings and I read about, you know, regardless whether it's a man, a woman, somebody who did something phenomenal, and especially if it's a, how would I say, in parentheses, a leading figure. Just because I'm reading a lot about SAP right now, of course, I think that the CEO is very charismatic, but they also have a lot of women as in key executive positions, and there are some of them who I would love to speak to. And if you know, you think sometimes people are untouchable, or in the sense that they're unreachable and no male will ever get to them, and you may just be surprised if you just sit there and you think, and you act as if, okay, you're going to be able to have that interview with them. In terms of the interview, I mean, for me as a researcher, I mean, asking them questions, you know, and if I sit there and I think, oh my gosh, if I could have this conversation with them, that little if word, it's so inspirational for me, because I then start to go off on all kinds of different topics and subjects and things I want to ask, and things that how they correlate. I mean, it's just amazing what happens, is what I'm trying to say. And the important thing is that you try and that you take action. You know, empower yourself to be confident. I mean, that's really the important thing here, is that you empower yourself, because women tend to not do that enough. Empower yourself, irregardless of what your gaps are. Just empower yourself to be confident that you're able to overcome them. And again, it's not an easy thing to do, but every little milestone, every little reaction that you get when you have that self-empowerment is just pretty amazing, actually. So on that note, that's what I wanted to share with you. You know, I know for me personally, so the slide here is, and I have some more information for you. So we're not done yet, but you know, there are always more questions that come to mind whenever I kind of dive into a topic, and for this one is especially is, you know, what do women self-predict when it comes to achieving tasks? Is a question that came up for me. You know, what are the preconceived notions about women's own ability related to their confidence for women in other cultures and countries? Excuse me, what is the societal impact there? What are other key variables of influence, because they may be different, you know? Comparing and contrasting of these studies would be quite rich. And of course, there's so much more to be studied here just because of all the interconnections and correlations to other facets around just the issue of, I mean, not the issue, but the factor of confidence alone and how it's tied to other behavioral aspects. Now, another thing I wanted to share is, excuse me, is some of the facts, I think, it's important to know that companies employing women in large numbers outperform their competitors. I'm sure many of you have read about this, but that's proven, that's research that's out there. Women now earn more college and graduate degrees than men do. And it's important to know that men doubt themselves too, yet they still take action, ladies. That's the difference. And of course there's a catch-22. Because the consequences of an assertive woman, women may suffer due to the lack of confidence, yet when they are assertive, they may suffer as well. Because she'll be disliked, she'll be disliked, her character is called into question. I'm telling you, I have experienced this. Because for me personally, I may have more male traits in terms of leading and just being out there in business than whatever stereotypical women. You know, you have these studies, and so these studies then put names and notions to women characteristics, men characteristics, leadership, personality, all this stuff, you know, and I don't want to downplay it. I'm just saying that sometimes you find men who have more characteristics or are well balanced between both genders, and women the same thing. But again, the thing is that assertive women, there's some type of stigma that goes with that. It's very fascinating how men and women react to assertive women. Then of course, risk-taking failure, risk-taking failure and perseverance are really essential foundations of confidence building. That's just a fact. And you have to know that another fact is confidence matters as much as competence. So it's just as important as knowing everything you need to know to get the job. You know, confidence isn't only about feeling good. It's about doing and translating thoughts into action. And we forget that. I mean, I do too, actually, you know. Sometimes, I mean, if you think about it, you know, what goals do you have for yourself? Do we even look at them again? Do we write them down? Do we edit them? Because, you know, where are we in our life? It's going to change. It's not going to necessarily stay the same. You know, if you do an inventory, there may be a thread going through your life in terms of your goals and stuff like that. But the thing is, sometimes we forget about going back to saying, hey, what do I really want to achieve now, you know? And doing something towards that is a definite confidence builder. You got to remember that low confidence is inaction, okay? Confidence is a belief. It's a belief that one is able to succeed. You're able to do this. Confidence is a belief that stimulates action, so that's where you want to be. It's related to doing something. You're not standing still. It's very dynamic. It's just this phenomenon of just movement, you know, to the better, you know. And I think those are important things to keep in mind when you think about confidence and how to build it. And so, of course, you know, another one by Eleanor Roosevelt is just, you know, to be bold. Well-behaved women rarely make history, and boy, isn't that the truth. It's just that way, you know. And assertive women sometimes are seen as not well-behaved. Well, you know what? There's been a lot of assertive women who made a lot of history, and Eleanor Roosevelt in her time, and they were certainly one of them. So, on that note, that's what I wanted to share with you here tonight. And you know, any comments you have, you know, any comments, questions, you're more than welcome. I'll give you the mic. If your mic works, you're more than welcome to type it in the chat box. If for any reason, you know, we run out of time or something like that, and I can't get to every question during our time here, I will copy paste that and then answer it and post it on the DB. But yeah, I open it up for any type of comments or questions you may have. So let me see. Let's see. Kavita, I'm going to unmute your mic, and I'm going to mute my mic just for audibility. So go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Gullett. It was a great session. Seriously, I think confidence is a key thing. While I'll present a case where I've been given a challenging team on one of my projects, where my team kind of like is a poor performing team. We are like it's a short project for 3 months, and I've got a senior leader into whom I report, and she also comes in like a month later, where we are already like 4 weeks behind. While we were supposed to go live in August, now the true date looks like in September. So I have 2 challenges. While I walk in every day with a great confidence that yes, I need to make up time, I need to do whatever it makes me do to go live in August. Yeah, and my senior manager equally brings. Rather than supporting me, she pulls me down. So there are 2 challenges. One, while I want to make every step to bring in a great level of confidence and make this project a success, the team is poor performing, as well as my manager is she's just pulling my confidence level low. So in this scenario, right? So what would be your recommendation, Dr. Gullett?
Wow, you know, I tell you,
it's hard. It's really hard. Yeah.
I mean, I agree. I tell you, you know, and I'm going to tell you, there's never a magic formula, and
exactly.
And the thing is, you know, with everything I shared with you here today, you know, like I said, all these things we may know, and now we're reminded of them, and you know, it's never easy, even for yourself. And then your situation now. So I have to tell you, I mean, this is just me, and from my experience, you know, negative work environments are just so toxic.
Yeah.
That it's something that I cannot stand. I cannot stand, and I will not have it. And I have to tell you that, you know, sometimes you just need to be very frank with everybody. And the thing is that it's interesting, because I was just actually reading and preparing another lecture about power and politics. And behavior. I mean, because you know, I'm really a behavioral scientist, and everything is based on behavior, because you get the toxic and pull down because of how she behaves and how the team behaves. And so sometimes, you know, there's this saying. I mean, here in the States, there's this saying. There's this how do they say it? Coming to Jesus is what they say, but really what it means is, you know, Kavita, sometimes the frank conversation is just to be had. And, you know, I mean, you know, I know that we also had on some of the discussions, we were talking about empathy and all that, and how women are like that. And I have to tell you, I'm not saying I don't have empathy. I do have empathy, but I'm maybe more male in that regard, to where I'm very matter of factual. It's not like if someone has a sickness in the family, you know, and that's why they perform poorly, that I don't have empathy for them. I do. But, you know, at the end of the day, I'm going to tell them, look, if you need time off to deal with this, then you need to take time off to deal with this, and then come back in full swing. Because if you don't, the thing is that everything will suffer, and I can't move resources around. And so, you know, the thing is that I have to tell you, in your situation, I would have a very frank conversation with everybody, and I would approach it in terms of a storytelling. And the storytelling is exactly, you know, you wouldn't talk about yourself, but you would talk about this project, that the team, because you're a part of the team. I mean, you guys are all a team. And I would tell the story of, and here we have these challenges, and here's what we're trying to accomplish. So I would just tell them that story and pause. Silence is huge sometimes. And then I would just invite them and ask them, so in this scenario, what would you do? Because it's really interesting when sometimes all of a sudden they recognize themselves in the scenario.
Yep.
You know, and the reason why I say I would use this approach is because I want them to understand that they have a role in this and that they are accountable. You may be the team lead, but hey, you know what? They have a job to do. They have a role, and there's accountability. Because at the end of the day, we all want to reap the benefits, right?
Yep.
And so sometimes you just have to be very frank. And in terms of, you know, one of your seniors, the pull downs, I have to tell you, with that person, I'd have an extra talk and just say, you know, it's just unacceptable behavior, because he or she, excuse me, does have some type of oh gosh, I can't think of the word now. I mean, they have a role to play. They all have a role to play. And people look, you know, the team looks at this person's behavior as well. And you can't have that. I mean, you just can't have negativity. You can't have toxic behavior. So the thing is you know, if I were to work with your group, I would actually go in and do some type of well, you know, I don't know. I'd have to observe them first to see what is there a team dysfunction? Is there more going on than what's going on? You know, but the key is if she is part of being a supervisor or a lead, or I'm just saying she, it could be a he, but what I'm saying is
it is a she again, Dr. Gullett, and that's the unfortunate thing. And so far, all my engagement directors were men who completely supported me and who would make the project green by all means, supporting me and my team, versus being a woman. And she just doesn't want to understand. She just thinks like, why is the project red? And when can I see it green? Well, it's not magic. It's a short project, and being behind by 4 weeks, it's not easy to catch up on such a short project.
And see, this is what I would do if I were you. I would actually tell the team, you know, total transparency.
Yeah.
I mean, total transparency, because you know the thing is I think that we women, well, I want to say not we. I want to say sometimes we tend to actually take on too much. Remember, I pointed out we care too much for others, and we, you know, the thing is total transparency even in bad times, not just in the good. They need to know, yeah, why this is where everyone has to pull together. You all have a role to play. Everyone is responsible. Everyone is held accountable. And I think it's really important at times you have to use those direct words for them to really understand that they're a part of the good, but they're also a part of, hey, when it counts. You know, and with that individual, especially if she's a lead, I would just ask her, why? How do you see that this is not a problem? I mean, maybe she, you know, maybe sometimes they just have to talk it out. It's almost like you take different approaches. You can take a coaching approach and just ask, how do you see this different? Let her come to the conclusion. Sometimes telling people things, you can tell them 100 times, but if you ask them questions and have them reflect, they'll come up with their own answer, and maybe that's what needs to happen. You know, but I'm saying it's never an easy situation. And the thing is I can tell you one thing for sure, in all this women leadership thing and just women to women and all of that, I have been in situations as well where women thought I'll cut them slack because they're a woman, and I do not do that. And I can tell you that I have been very frank about telling them, if you think just because I'm a woman I'm going to cut you slack, it's not going to happen. It's just not. I treat everybody the same. I expect the same from you than everyone else. And sometimes you have to be that straightforward.
Agree.
Yeah, I mean, it's never an easy thing. It's never, hooray, I really want to do this today. This is going to make me feel so great. But, you know, sometimes it's just a part of the necessity. you know, to where you can't have your gloves on, your soft gloves. You just have to be very factual, you know, and leave emotions out of it. You just have to be very factual. So sometimes we have to walk a fine line. It's not easy, for sure. Yeah, but yeah, so I don't know. I hope that helped a little. I mean, you know, you can always post it in the section cafe, this scenario. I think it's a great scenario to post. I'm sure others have been in very similar scenarios. And we're together for quite a few months. Put it on the section cafe, and others can reply. I mean, it's great if we can create this network and exchange, you know, how we would tackle things. That's what we're here for.
Will do, Dr. Gullett. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Let's go to Anjali. Go ahead. You have the mic.
Hi, Dr. Gullett. Thank you for the session. I have a comment on the last section, like it's behavior is not good because from all our upbringing we have been taught to behave properly, and so do you think as a woman leader sometimes like to be rude, not caring attitude is what we should have, or more curt attitude?
No, actually I don't think that.
I don't think maybe a bit of against what typically we have been brought up as.
Yeah, you know, I'm not saying that I'm not saying at all that women should be rude. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that at all. The upward, you know, the upward. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Basically, sometimes these are the qualities that we should have so that maybe we succeed as a leaders. Less empathetic, not all the time, but sometimes it's required.
Yeah, exactly. You know, Anjali, that's why I'm always saying everything is a contingency. You know, it's all on the situation, and it doesn't matter what gender. When you are a good, authentic, strong leader, you will really try to read the situation. And when I say the situation, I mean everything: your internal, external environment, the people around you. I mean the behaviors, everything, the goal, the objectives. You know, I mean it really. It requires a lot of an individual to be on really a front runner in terms of being a sound leader. And so. What I was trying to refer to is that there is the tendency of women having those certain traits, and that it may be related to how, you know, society told us on how we need to be even when we were raised and when we were on the playground. And so we never really learned certain things. And I think that because of what how would I say, how society put names to things and labeled things, and amongst that labeled women in terms of, well, you know, they're soft and yes, I will use the word empathy, because that's why I asked some of the questions on the DB about being empathetic. You know, that businesses, at least this has been my experience sometimes, that, you know, women don't get certain positions because they're just too soft, you know, you know, and the thing is that then you have that catch-22 if there is a woman who is not that soft but actually very factual, because with the notion of softness and empathy comes the emotion, and the emotions is also something in the past that the typical male board looked down upon. You know, I mean, it was even went as far as being tied to the menstrual cycle because of hormones and stuff like that. I mean, I'm telling you, I've heard it all. I've seen it all. And the thing is that that's why I'm saying there are certain situations that warrant that you would, it's just a certain firmness. I don't think I ever want to say rude, because I would not want anybody to be rude, whether it's a man or a woman, regardless of position. The fact of the matter remains, you have to be respectful. I mean, we don't have to anything but pay taxes and breathe, you know, but the thing is one of my values is respect. You respect everything, and you respect every person, regardless of their differences or how. It doesn't matter, you know. So the important thing here is that the focus is on being factual and being firm whilst remaining respectful at all times. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you though. Let's see. Ami, go ahead, you have the mic.
Hi, good morning ladies. Fantastic session and a lot of exchange through comments I'm reading, and that's amazing. And I totally agree, and I think I've lived that way, tried my best to live that way with full confidence. And I think what gives us more confidence is that look into the eye of the person whom you're talking to and walk with your head up, because most of the times, you know, we women, when we are walking around, we just have our head down and try to, you know, take it easy but still grow up the ladder, and you know, but I think it is more about how you walk and talk to the person makes a lot of difference. And at times when we need to be straightforward in commenting about what is that jointly we are trying to achieve and not really making it your business or my business has really helped me. So every time I've gotten a situation wherein, you know, I have been pulled down by somebody, I have asked them, is this not even your business? Is this not we are jointly trying to work for an organization, or is it that something I'm trying to do it for you or you're trying to do for me? So I think this is not being rude, this is being straightforward, this is being putting the right perspective, and that has always helped. I mean, in my previous role, and even in my current role, you know, there is no direct reportee that I have, but I have to get few things done. Okay, and you know, it gets really hard sometimes because in organization it's more hierarchy that works than anything else. And that is where I think, you know, looking into the eyes of people and asking them, are you aligned to the same objectives? If no, then we'll have to take it up differently. And that has really helped me in my career. So I would really think that, you know, more dreams of all of us are shattered because we really worry about what others think of us. Or I think we should think more of what we think of ourselves and what is that we want to achieve. And I may not, you know, I'm not boasting of any great career success, but at least I know as a human being, I feel very confident when I walk down the street or walk down the office. And it's just about believing yourself as really, I mean, we will get tricky people, you know, who really try hard. But I think when, you know, we are determined, we should be able to make it. So, Dr. Gullett, thank you for, you know, reaffirming my thoughts and giving some new thoughts also, so that will help me in future.
Oh, thanks so much, Ami, for sharing. I mean, I loved what you said. And I mean, and this is, yeah, in the chat, it's great. I'm going to copy this and actually put it in a DB so everyone can read it again. I mean, and this is what I love about, oh my gosh, ladies, this is so great. This is why I was so excited when I knew I had another Atos group coming. This is exactly what I mean. I mean, I'm so passionate about this. This is just great stuff because I'm really passionate about the evolving the self, whether it's a woman or it's a man, about the person, the human being. And you know, Ami, what you just said, I love that. Walk with your head up, you know, and how we walk and how we talk. And isn't that the truth? Because actually think about this. You know, and again, I'm just going to, you know, I mean, I can only talk for me personally, but this is so interesting because just recently I thought, why do I walk looking at the floor? I do that sometimes. And I have had I've had a friend before who said, Evelyn, you walk so nice and straight up. Look up. You know, you have such a confident posture. You need to look up more. And every time I catch myself looking down when I walk, whether it is at the gym, whether it is that I would, I don't know, it's just sometimes I notice it. And you're so right. You know, what does that and how does that make you feel? And when you talk, being you know, that there's a whole thing about, you know, like you said, being straightforward, and that kind of goes back to what I was saying to Kavita, is to have a, you know, you have a heart-to-heart, and you're just very direct and factual. It's the same thing, being straightforward and looking people in the eye. And you even look them in the eye, even if their culture in some, you know, in some of the, for example, Japanese, you don't look them in the eye. Well, I look them in the eye if I have something to say and it's a situation, you know, because and again, it's the whole point of displaying your confidence, displaying your competence at the same time. And I also love what you said in terms of, you know, what others think. I have to tell you, in my entire life, I never really cared what others thought of me. I have known a lot of people, and especially a lot of women, who always cared what others thought of them. And that put an automatic hamper on whatever it is they wanted to do. I'm not saying I have done everything in my life. I've tried to live my dreams, you know, and sometimes life happens and you derail. You just need to get back on. But the thing is, it's important what you think of yourself, you know, and again, it goes back to, you know, confidence is a belief. What do you believe in yourself is really what Ami just said. I think that's so important. You know, is it about becoming a CEO? It's not, because I think, I don't know if I mentioned this on this in one of the DBs here, but you know, not everybody wants to become a CEO, and it's not really about that. It's about believing what it is that you do. You know, it makes a difference. It's good for you yourself, grows yourself, because it will affect everyone around you. It just does. I just think that, you know, again, I can only say I'm a firm believer in the living systems theory, and there's an interconnection to everything that we do. And so, yeah, this is great sharing. Oh my gosh, we could go on forever. So hang on, let me find my number. Let's see. For those of you who have already spoken, if you want to put your hand down, because then it will renumber for me. Nilima, go ahead, your mic's unmuted.
Hi, Gullett. This is Nilima, and this is indeed a very good discussion. Actually, the problem what I'm facing is attitude problems in the team. Okay, I'm like, sometimes I'm very soft and talking with the people, and even I'm a bit afraid that they may take me as granted. And sometimes the people who are like, you know, not working and all, or not in the office, in office hours, and they're roaming around. So if I am tracking them and I'm saying, okay, why are you not in office? Then they are spreading the rumors as, you know, I'm like being very strict and I'm micromanaging, something like that. So it's like, you know, I'm just unable to understand these attitude problems, and if they are doing something wrong, and if I'm saying that, and they're taking it so wrong, and it's like,
okay,
in terms of technical gaps or functional gaps, and just I'm trying to make them understand, but they are like, you know, taking me wrong. So how
you know,
to get rid of that?
You know, Nilima, here's what's really important. What's really important is, when, just from listening to your situation, this is what I depict. There's a very fine line between wanting to be friends and keeping that line of respect of you being the lead. You know, and I always tell team leads, supervisors, managers, what have you, that it's you know, you can get involved with your people, you can talk to your people, but you have to be very aware to know where where your line is, and that they understand where the line is. You know, and this is what I mean, that sometimes when you say of yourself, you're soft and all of that, and you talk to everybody, it's very important that this is kind of interesting, because my experience has been, I've had similar experiences in the past, and you know, again, it's all about evolving and growing. And I have to tell you that, you know, I remember having my first supervisor job, and I wanted to be liked. I wanted to be liked, you know, I wanted them to you know, see me as, oh, she's approachable, and etc., all this good stuff, right? And the next thing I know is people are doing whatever they want. And then, you know, when I said, hey, I need you to do this because, you know, we have this due date and all of that. And then all of a sudden I was the bitch. And, you know, and they started to complain about me to my manager. And so, so I learned from that it's not about, I don't need to be their friend. I'm in charge, and I'm responsible, and I need to make sure they have the resources and the support they need to get the job done. And that doesn't mean that I don't respect them and I don't value them as individuals. I do, but there's a certain firmness that I created. I had, what I did is to change things around. Is I had, for example, daily 5-minute meetings, and then I had a lot of meetings just so they kind of to basically rebuild my own self and the culture that I wanted to have. And some people understood it, and some people didn't, and those who didn't ended up actually leaving or were left because I terminated them because of poor performance. And so these are all things sometimes that are, you know, not so nice. They're not fun, but you have to do what you have to do. And so the important thing is that, you know, my notion has always been, I'm not there to be someone's friend. That does not mean that I don't respect someone. That doesn't mean that I don't value them for what they bring to the table. It just means that, you know, I respect them, so therefore I want them to respect me. I want them to respect our objectives. And again, sometimes you have to have that firm and candid talk. And I think it's an important one to have. You have it sooner better than later. You know, I really think it's important. And I really think that, again, transparency is key. Sometimes people need to be told what their role is, how their role makes a difference to the objective of the team and the department, and, you know, on a macro and micro level. And sometimes you have to take that extra step and explain that, because sometimes people forget that they're not just there to come in and collect a check, but they're actually there because you value them, and that they have a role to perform, and that they're going to be held accountable. And so my recommendation is for you to do that, exactly that. So I hope that that helped you some. And again, I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do, but it's just something you need to, when stuff like that happens, you need to take control of that immediately. Do not let it go on, because it's just going to snowball. It's not going to be getting any better. Mohini, go ahead.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes.
Can you hear? Can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Good morning. It was a wonderful session, and I could relate in most of these presentations. I could relate to myself, and you know, it is really wonderful to know, get to these things and understand and see that how we can improve ourselves, or just put ourselves in that position and take it forward as a thing to ponder. Okay, my question here on one of the points that lack of confidence and which is lack of competence. There was one in the last presentation. I saw that, but I see it differently, because I come across different kind of team members in my team, where there is no competence, but still, I mean, they overdo. I mean, just talk about it a lot, but finally there is nothing, though there is no competence-wise, though there is not much, I mean, they really lack competence, but still, have the confidence and get something, the entire project goes for a toss, So how do we see that, such situations, how do we handle, and, how do we feel that, it's really a lack of competence and it's not, being overconfident and getting things wrong is actually, where we are going wrong in the project or stuff like that?
Well, the important thing is that if you notice that it's because of lack of competence, then you really need to identify training gaps. Okay, that's absolutely crucial. If you're working on a project and you think you have all the competence levels that you need to actually get the project completed successfully, and all of a sudden you notice that there are, that it keeps slipping up, you really need to, if you know that it's because of competence gaps, you have to give training, because you've got to give the people the resources to do their job. So it's really important that you analyze and evaluate, if recurrent training perhaps is required, and what type of training that is. Maybe it's a good thing to take an inventory and take a survey to see where people are on what knowledge level. Maybe you need to do that periodically just to see what type of training you need, how long of the training you need, what the content of the training should be. I mean, you can throw training together and make it very effective and very cost and time effective as well. That will help support the project and get it done in time. With quality and all, but it's really important that you analyze and evaluate training needs. I mean, that would be, if I were your consultant, and I would go in and I would observe that, and I've seen that that it's not necessarily a team issue. It's that training is missing. Or, you can take, I mean, again, there's so much correlation and interconnectedness. I could take it back all the way to what's the job criteria? What's the job function? What's the job criteria? What's the job description? And based on that, what are the hiring criteria, and how did the person get hired in the first place? What is the interview process like? What type of interview questions are asked? I mean, I could go on and on and on, because it's all overlapping and all interconnected. And if there's one link that's broken, it will affect everything down line. You may not see it immediately, but you will see it. So I hope that helped you some.
Yeah, see, sometimes, not always we have the flexibility of, choosing the team, or, saying that, I need the best.
Right.
So whatever is there, we need to get adjusted and we need to get going with within the team. And sometimes we don't have the budget of, getting them trained and things like that. We, of course, we tell them, and, we just make sure that, these things can be learned, or, we give some inputs on, what can be learned on their own and stuff like that. But yeah, we of course will not have that budget, or that kind of getting them trained, or taking that extra budget and stuff like that. So in such situations, if if the team is not willing, or take that step to build up that confidence, is there any better?
The thing is, I know it's always a budget constraint. Typically, when it comes to training dollars, those are the first ones constrained. And the thing is then usually what happens is the team leader gets creative. I mean, I have held pizza sessions. I mean, I've tried to make it fun events to where we all sit together, and you as the team lead are there as well, and you give a training session. And then maybe you try to see if you can give some comp time for the hours they spend in the training session, or you just get very creative in trying to make it a fun event, or a fun event. I mean, there are ways to do it. The thing is of course, it takes a lot of toll on the team leader just because you're the one they always watch. You're the one they look up to. And if you're committed, they're going to be committed, you know. And yeah, that's kind of, yeah, sometimes it's hard. It's hard on the team lead just because, you know, you spend your hours there and you do prep work. You go all out. You want to make sure they have a good time. You want to make sure they're with you, you know, and team build. And most of the time that's done way beyond business hours. You know, but it's just sometimes, I mean, today, you know, it's just sometimes that's the case. And then, of course, you have to make your case with upper management and say, you know, we can't expect folks to do this. I mean, it can become a retention issue. It doesn't matter how much fun your trainings are. It can become a retention issue because you're encroaching on people's private time, you see. So I always say to firms that you have to really strike a balance. It's a give and a take. And what you don't want to lose is capable people. You know, so again, there's a lot of systems theory. Everything's tied to everything. And the thing is, frankly, organizations forget that. You know, so you have to really, really think about that and also make your case with your upper management at the same time and say, we can do this once, but we cannot make it a habit, is basically what I'm saying. You know.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. Let's see. Okay, we have Kavita and Anjali. You still have your hand raised. Did you want the mic again? I'm not sure. Oh, I have some more down here. Okay, Nishka, go ahead. You have the mic.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks for the session. Actually, I liked all the points which you have brought it in front of us. I think in this session you talked about the negotiation, and women negotiate 30% less compared to a men. So I would really like to understand your views in terms of what are your tips and strategies to be a good negotiator, how we can improve our negotiation skills. And because I'm just giving you an example of my past. In my previous job, actually, I was quite satisfied in terms of my responsibilities and all the jobs, the handling of the various clients, and the looking at my abilities, my responsibilities were increasing. And in my previous job, I worked around 6.5 years, and I was quite satisfied with the nature of work and technologies and in my team and everything. The only point the salary was compared to a man was very low, and there I was not satisfied at all. After escalating to HR, to my management, to my senior managers, I think approximately 2 or 3 years, but that's not improved, and it was not at par with the other my colleagues as such. So the only option left then, after escalation and negotiation internally in the organization, that to leave the job and to search the other job. So in certain circumstances, what do you think should the best strategy for women to negotiate internally in the organization to be at least at par, and so that you are skilled at par with the organization standards?
Okay, so actually, let me just say that I actually have planned in my end webinar of this program, which I know will be a few months down the road. I'm actually going to talk about coaching negotiation. So I'll talk about that a little more in detail at that time. But let me just tell you this. So, and I would just talk from my own experience, especially in terms of negotiating as a woman, and the example of salary. I find that the research on that holds true, because I have always had a hard time negotiating salary. Always, and I always felt I undersold myself. And what was really interesting, and this was when I got my PhD actually. I had a great, my committee chair. She was a very, very powerful woman. And this is just one example how sometimes, I know that in one of the DBs, I think perception came up as well, which is also very interesting in how people sometimes, how we perceive people, because sometimes we don't know people, we go by their looks. And this is an important criteria when you negotiate as well. So my committee chair actually was this short, appeared to be quiet little woman. And I met her in a research session at first. And I am just telling you this, Nishtha, just to kind of lead up to what she then taught me. And I thought, I saw her and I thought, oh my gosh, this lady is teaching the research seminar. Oh, I don't know about that. Was my thought, or something similar. I thought, no, I don't know. I don't know how this is going to go. It's going to be interesting, is what I thought. Well, she ended up being that I was so impressed by her. Such a powerful woman that, again, she ended up being my committee chair, and she taught me a whole lot. She was the one who taught me, empower yourself, Evelyn. And I thought about that, and I tell you that was one of the best lessons throughout my entire PhD, 4 years of reading and writing, and all of this was that. And the other one was when I graduated. Actually, several of my professors that I had worked with asked me to introduce myself, and I said my name is Evelyn Gullett, and they're like, no, see, it's not. Of course, my name is Evelyn Gullett, but in certain venues, it is Dr. Evelyn Gullett. So that was another thing I learned, because it's a part of negotiation strategy as well. And then they asked me, do you have a business card? And this is so bad, actually, I ran out of business cards, just my own business cards, not necessarily Global Next University ones, but just me with my name on it and my, my degrees or whatever I call myself. But the thing is that she told me that you have a worth. And I think I want to say to you, Nishtha, that you have a worth. And I think it's important that you know your worth and that you stand firm. And this is what I've learned. And like I said, this is very recent that I have learned that, I think that it is important that you stand firm. I mean, we all go out and especially if you jobs change, whether it is an entire career change, whether it is a lateral move, it doesn't really matter whether it's internal or external. What matters is you do your homework, because knowledge is power. So you look and see what the industry pays in comparable positions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you look at your years of experience and what you can do. And I'm talking about even if you don't meet 100% of the job criteria, because remember we talked about that confidence factor. It's okay, because you'll learn it. You're capable. You stand firm with your absolute minimum. Because in interviews, they'll always ask, well, they will ask, well, what do you want? Pretty much. How much do you want to get paid? And I used to sit there and say, well, how much are you willing to pay? And I still ask that question. I sometimes ask that question back just because I want to find out what their range is. Because they know my CV. Hopefully they've read my CV, and that will also tell me very quickly if they read my CV or not. Because obviously you know your worth, you know your experience level, you know your education or your certifications or your specialties, you know what they're worth, and you will see exactly whether they know what you are worth to them or not. And that's my whole point when it comes to negotiating salary. I just feel, and this is a confidence thing that I've empowered myself to embrace. What you see is what you get, and if you don't see the value in me, then that will be your loss, because this is how much I'm worth. Okay, and I always walk in now today. I mean, of course, now I'm not seeking, but if I were to go and seek, I will walk in with a minimum in mind, and no one can change that. There is, you can negotiate there is a minimum period. And I always have that minimum in mind, and I will still ask the question, well, what is this position? What am I as a value add worth to you in that position? And that is an absolute great question to ask. And I ask that question because I want them to realize that I do add value and that there's a worth to that. And so I pose that question. And when they ask me, well, this is the range, and I said, okay, so where do you think I would fall in that range? Especially if the range starts, the low end of it is below my own minimum, okay? Then I pose the question, well, where do you see I fall in that range? And I can tell you from experience that most of the time, their offer was actually higher than my absolute minimum and more bordered towards the mark of what I would have asked for as a max. So the key is in negotiating salaries is also, I always say, the art of the word. It takes practice. Practice it with family, friends at home. Especially don't be afraid and bold to ask, well, what is my value worth to you? Because they have to know that you're value to them, and they need to acknowledge it. So that's kind of what I want to leave you with in terms of negotiating salaries. I hope that gave you some room to play with. But excuse me, I'll talk more to coaching negotiation at the very end of the program. But anyway, that would be my immediate thing, and it is a sensitive one, absolutely sensitive one, I tell you, and I feel that we can't learn enough on how to be firm and be bold and feel good about it. And again, it goes right back to self-worth and confidence, Okay, ladies, I know that we're almost an hour and a half into it. Some of you may have to log off. I completely understand. Let me see. I have a few more hands. Pallavi, I'm going to give you the mic. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning, Dr. Gullett. The session was quite helpful, and I think the interactions which we are having are also quite helpful. So I think we touched upon few of these things since last few discussions. So as a manager, like a women manager, what I could do is, like, in fact, what I realized is that in one of the projects which I took over, there was a lot of pressure and a lot of work, and the team size was quite small. Like, there were, I think, 5 people, and 2 of them were guys, and 2 of them were girls, and 1 person was a debut. She was also a girl. And what used to happen is this project being high pressure, there was a lot of the deliveries were not happening because of certain issues. Certain knowledge gaps. So people had to stretch. And what was happening was these guys, they always were made to wait because there was things like security and all those things, right? Going back home at night, all those things used to. But because they being guys, they were always called on weekends. They were always asked to wait back. And what I saw is that here, when we talk about being equal and being supportive, I think it shouldn't be one-sided. When we as women are part of a team, we have to have equal distribution of work as well. And I asked the person who was managing the project that why is it that the girls who are there, they are not stretching, because I don't want them to be here till late, but they should wait for maybe whatever time they can, maybe 2 hours, and it shouldn't be that only as 2 people are So he said that I feel very awkward to make them wait, because when I asked them to I did ask them to help in 1 or 2 cases, and they said that they are getting late and all these things, and then I felt that I might be held responsible if they don't get home on time. So then I talked with these girls, and I told them that being a project where it is like, we have this amount of work, I took some approvals wherein we could arrange for their transport. And so what I'm trying to say is that at times we always look at the picture where women are not given opportunities, or when they're doing right things and all. But I have seen situations, like being a woman, I'm saying this, but I have seen situations where there is like some sort of soft corner which is used. And especially I think there are times when men, or like in this case, like I could explain to them, and probably they did not, they could also understand what I was saying, but it might be possible for difficult for men. Like it might be a challenge to convince people, like especially women colleagues, to contribute when especially in such cases. So that was, I think, a different type of outlook which I'm bringing in here. So
yeah, well, the thing is that I think what's very important is that it's equal for everybody.
Exactly.
Okay, I think that whatever policies are written, whatever culture is embraced in an organization, it's really a crucial aspect that it's equal for everybody. Because, in some countries you have to deal with work laws. I mean, I know in Germany you have to deal with work laws. Even here in the United States you have all kinds of, discrimination and all these things, It's different from country to country, especially when then you come to have to work with a global organization, and, such as Atos, where you actually will go and you work with clients who, again, are your clients, so they have their own policies and procedures, and on top of it, you're in a different country. So the thing is you have to be very cognizant of that as Atos, as an organization itself, and to train employees accordingly, to be sensitive to that. But I think what's most important is that any policy you create, any procedure you create, it has to be based equal. You can't make exceptions to the rules, and, like you say, the soft corners. I think it's absolutely crucial that everything is created. It's got to be equal. It has to be created equal. And I mean, that's just absolutely crucial, because, the thing is that this is another example that goes straight back to, especially the conversation around, women being primary caretakers of whether it's elders or children, or run the family manage the family home as well, and not being able to travel as much or be flexible. I mean, all these things, and the thing is that, so there's always this fine line of creating, you have this whole new topic of work-life balance, which I also find very super important. And the notion is, I can tell you that the work-life balance is not just for women. I mean, it's for everybody, because men are getting burned out just as women are. The whole lifestyle movement is changing in its entirety, and not just in one place in the world. It's changing everywhere. People don't want to be burnt out anymore. People actually want to have more time off. They want to spend more time doing what they love to do leisurely, and not burn themselves to the ground working for an organization. I think you have the people who all they live and breathe is work are far, far less today than 10, 15 years ago. And so organizations have to pay attention to that, and how it affects everybody, how it affects motivational levels, productivity levels, and work environments, and creating, creating all those programs and policies that go along with it is absolutely important for the future of any organization, because, again, it all boils down to human capital retention. Because I will go to another company if I know in the amount of time that I'm given, I can be productive, get the work done, I'm appreciated and valued, but I have my leisure time. Yes. And I'm making the same amount of money or more, and I'm appreciated more, and there are these programs and this and that, and there's this flexibility, and I can share my job with this person for however long I want, or I can chill. I mean, there are so many things of importance today that a company has to pay attention to that, and they're still behind, I can tell you that. And so all this equalness and gender thing, I really think that if we're focusing on work-life balance, it is a genderless agenda, because everybody wants it, especially with the generations today. So, yeah, all I can say to you, you know, you got to be, policies and procedures got to be equal. Yeah. You know, so, yeah, but thanks for bringing that up. So, yeah, a whole nother topic to talk about. Oh, my gosh, and Vidya, here's your mic. This is the last person we take for today. Vidya, we'll have you, and then we'll close the session.
Yeah. Hello, Dr. Evelyn. It was really a nice session, and yeah, I enjoyed. And I feel that if this session would have been there 10 years before for me, it could have really helped me, because these are the problems which I faced in my early career. And you know, how I solved this is read a lot of books, lot of books, and you know, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you know, I really, for my every problem, I noted down the solution. You know, so this is what I have to do, and finally it worked out well for me. Yeah. So coming back to your presentation, see, one point I do not agree is that in one of the slides you said we should ask what men should do at when men would do at certain situation. Because if this question is asked, what happens is that a person will lose their own identity. Yeah. And if you ask this question, then you know you might result in imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this is what you know my comment is. Thanks.
Yeah, Vidya. No, absolute valid comment. Absolutely. The thing, yeah, you're absolutely correct. Now the thing is what's important is when in my readings, when I found that, I wanted to include it, because really it is, again, like I said, it just depends on the situation. You may not want to do it in every situation, but you know, for example, it's specifically tied to the example of Virginia working, you know, considering the job of that IBM CEO and being tied to the research data that showed that men will still apply for the job even if they only know 60% of the requirements. So it's kind of tied into that. So it's important, of course, if you were to ever ask yourself that question, no, certainly don't become an imposter. You know, you want to be true to yourself. I think it's just a hint to say, well, if, for example, when you apply for a job or when you apply for a specialty training, you know, typically if you look in organizations, most of the males will go for it, even if they don't meet the criteria to actually be approved for the training, you know. But at the end of the day, they are approved for the training because not enough capable people actually signed up. That's kind of what the interesting thing is. So you absolutely have a valid point, though, in terms of asking that question. Certainly, if you were to do that every day, it could certainly lead to something you don't want it to lead to. So I appreciate that. Okay, everybody, thanks so much for a rich session. That was great sharing. And I will see you oh gosh, yeah, we are almost done with our first module. The module ends on the 29th, so just keep plugging away still on both DBs. I know the case DB is pretty much, you know, you do your own analysis. Sometimes questions come up and people will a case is always a little different than a straightforward discussion. And of course, even the Thatcher case, we could have a whole nother session just talking about Margaret Thatcher. I particularly really like that case. I know that there's some people who have not cared for her, who don't care for her. I personally thought that she was quite remarkable in her time for what she had accomplished and how she managed things and situations and people and societal stereotyping even back then. It's just simply amazing to me. I think there's a lot one can learn from her and from the case. And that's really what it's about. That's why I picked it. You know, and of course, I will post some of my thoughts here in a couple of days' time. I just wanted to give everybody the opportunity to post their own take on the case and the case questions. So again, let's see. Okay, there was a question, will there be a special DB to discuss on for today's topic? What I can do actually is, you know, the section cafe is always a nice way to go to where you can continue to discuss on the confidence. So you're more than welcome to always use the section cafe to post any type of topics or questions, you know, that you have, to where you seek others' inputs. You know, I also look at the section cafe, so I may throw in a few thoughts. Other professors may do the same. But yeah, anyway, I want to thank all of you to coming on and sharing, and also Rich sharing on the discussions. It was great. Yeah, time flies when you have fun. So our session ends this Sunday, and then your session begins, of course, with Module 2. But again, I want to reiterate, you know, I will always be behind the scenes. You will get announcements from me periodically in terms of the reminders on the team project topic, I mean the module topics selection and the due dates thereof. And I also will check in, you know, on the DB questions and comments to the professor. And then you can always email me if there's something that you want opinions on related to our topic here, or in general on the module 1, or anything related to really organizational behavior, leadership, coaching, what have you. You can always email me. Anyway, thanks so much, everybody, and have a great rest of the week, a great weekend ahead, and I'm sure I'll be, in parentheses, seeing you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.